My name is Andreas Russo, and I've developed HMOs for now over 10 years. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about HMOs and the documents you will require for compliance. At the beginning, my first HMOs, getting a license, well, not getting a license, applying for an HMO license was very easy. You had to fill in a form and ask you a few questions, paid your fees, off you go. Sometimes you waited for the council to come around with the inspection, then they would give you the draft license. But depending on the councils, what I'm finding, because I have HMOs in different councils all throughout the UK, these processes of applying or renewing for a license is becoming harder and harder. But I would not be discouraged for it, because in my case, I couldn't care less, because this is what I do and I've done it for many years. So I've got the experience. So getting the right documents in place is extremely easy for me, because also my team is getting experienced with that. So everything is getting easier and easier, because it's pretty much the same stuff over and over again. But what happens every now and then, and it's happening twice this year in 2025, it happened twice, 2 HMOs, full audits. So what happens is, sometimes randomly, the council just go hard on you, just ask you for all the possible documents they can think of, and that can be quite costly. But the good thing is that as long as you have applied for a license, this is very important, as long as you have applied for the license, and maybe you're waiting for an inspection, then you've got strong legal protection, even if you don't have some of these documents, because they can actually issue warnings and this sort of thing. But because I'm very well prepared and I've got lots of experience, at this point, there's not a problem for me anymore. Now, the 2 documents that you will never going to be able to do yourself unless you've got the right qualifications, which are quite expensive to obtain, is the gas safety certificate and the EICR, which is the testing certificate for the electrical installation. For the HMOs, the EICR is valid for 5 years. It does not matter if you've got a 10-year report. It really doesn't matter. The council will always ask you to do a new one after 5 years. Now, it's best you always do them, especially a gas safe certificate, for a number of legal reasons. But in case you forgot one of them, usually councils are quite lenient as long as you do them quite quickly. However, in all my properties that I own, we get them done yearly without any, as a routine. So we've got our calendars, we've got people, we go to different houses, and we get these 2 done routinely, because there's other types of documents which they can request in a full audit if you've ever been audited, and the other documents you can actually produce yourself, you can test things yourself, provided that you have either the right qualifications or you're a competent person. I'm not going to go into detail about each particular document, but for the documents I'm actually going to talk about, these documents, we produce ourselves because I'm a competent person. I've got an electrical engineering degree, master's, from Strathclyde University, so that's enough for many things. But the amount of documents which you're going to require to have in place for a full audit is quite substantial and is very costly if you need to get someone else to do it yearly for each house. So I would recommend that you become a competent person by, number one, having the relevant standards at hand. You can find the relevant standards for each of these documents from different libraries for free. Found one in Scotland, so when I need them, I've got them there, but they're quite expensive to get. Now, let's talk about the main ones. They pretty much always ask for, the councils always ask for in a full audit, but now they also ask for them as part of the application. The main one is the fire risk assessment. The fire risk assessment is a document that fortunately you can do yourself. It's quite clear, we've actually done triple checking on this at this moment as I'm making this video. Pretty much you can do yourself. There is the competent person sort of thing, but what we've done, number one, I've done it for a number of years. Number two, in order to safeguard ourselves, I have paid for fire risk assessments done by different companies, look at their templates and improve our fire risk assessment based on the template that they've actually used and their fire risk assessment. So in case of any legal challenge, we can prove that, say, look, our fire risk assessment is done really well, because by the way, this is just an example of a fire risk assessment that we have paid such and such company to do. And this is the invoice, and this is the date. And if you can see, ours is far more complete than this one. So just having this sort of defense is quite a strong point. So because I'm all about strong legal defense, because I'll give you a story later on. But anyway, so fire risk assessment. Then we've got emergency lights testing. It depends on how your emergency lights are being installed. You have to do a discharge test every 6 months, if I remember well. You just look that one up. And then I think every month or 2 months, you just do another test. So they can ask you for both. In my case, because I'm an electrical engineer, I've done it for many years, and in all my HMOs, I've designed them all. In some HMOs, I bought them cheap on auction. The emergency lights were there already, so we just piggybacked off what we had, and just added some more, and we used the same sort of configuration of emergency lights, because emergency lights can be maintained or non-maintained. So depending on what is there in place, when we buy them on auction very, very cheap, then we just try to keep things as they are, but we still add a bit more just in case. In my HMOs, I go insane about two things. Number one is the smoke detectors. So I get them anywhere and everywhere. I get criticized a lot about the smoke detectors, and I get criticized a lot about the emergency lights, because people say, when they go and install them, say, why are you doing this? I'm doing this, I'm going insane with the emergency lights and this sort of measures, is because when you get a full audit, and I'll tell you some brief story about it, you never know what can actually happen. Now, and then you have to have a very strong legal defense. So emergency lights, you can do that yourself. You can actually triple check on that. I do it myself through my companies, and I'm the one who signs them because I'm the electrical engineer I'm qualified with a master's degree. So no council so far has ever questioned or even challenged any of them. And if they do, I've got a very strong defense. So we're going to talk about that later on. Then I've got the fire alarm testing. Again, it's quite similar to the emergency lights. So for these two things, emergency lights and fire alarm testing, you've got templates you can find online. I think possibly at some point we're going to put on our websites some templates. Possibly we'll do that, so for you to use. And then weekly, for the fire alarm, weekly testing logbook. So for fire alarms systems, especially grade A fire alarm systems, with the ones with the panel, we put grade A fire alarm systems even in 2-story houses where they're not required. It's peace of mind from my point of view. You need, unfortunately, is a stupid thing, that weekly testing logbook. So that can be done by yourself. You can ask a tenant to do it if you want. So pretty much that you can check yourself, as long as there's some paper trail that has been done and you submit it. That's fine. Let's assume that you do have a license and you do not have some of these. Usually it's no big deal, because you've got a strong legal protection because of your license. You have a license, or you applied for it. But I'll tell you a story in a second. But okay, let's go back to these documentations. Now, because they're quite costly, and there's other documents that you're required to have as well. These are not all of them. There's other documents too. If you have a number of HMOs, as I do have, I do strongly require you to invest in some course about electrical qualifications or something that will allow you to prove, in case of challenge, that you're a competent person. Just get some qualifications of some sort. It's up to you to build your own defense. I've got my own defense well prepped. So these documents are expensive. So do them yearly. We're talking about, so this one is in the region, the fire risk assessment in the region of 400 or more. Emergency lights, fire alarm panel, we're talking about even £1,000 a year on top. So, and I haven't talked about the other documents either. So you're talking about £1,000 a year to have these documents there. So apart from the gas safety and the EICR. The EICR is for every 5 years. The gas safety is yearly. So for £1,000 a year a house, I would get the qualifications, some qualifications, and I would build my defense. So I would encourage you to build your defense. In my case, I'm the responsible person for each and every HMOs, and I prefer it that way. There's other investors that have got separate managers that are on the license. Remember one thing, never think that even if you get someone else to get a license on your behalf, you as the owner are off the hook, because there's certain ways, and unfortunately I checked on it, that you can get on the hook, and basically the councils love it, especially when you've got separate manager, you're not in the license. And when they find something they can get you for, can issue a civil penalty notice for, they go all in. Because they're going to get the money from the manager, they're going to get the money from you, and depending if there's leaseholders now, they get money from 3 people. They get freaking minted. So be careful. In my case, I take it all on because I've done it for so many years. I'm used to have huge legal responsibilities on myself. I sleep tight at night because I know how to handle the risk assessment of the legality of things. Now, I'll give you a very interesting story. It was just last year started, in one of my big HMOs, the council went completely insane. They asked me not only for that, for all these things, far more. They tried anything and everything. I have a license in place. Pretty much nothing wasn't anything really bad, but I had a fire enforcement notice. I started fighting that. It was a fire enforcement notice I got based on falsehoods. They basically said that there wasn't any emergency lights testing done, which was false. No fire risk assessment. It wasn't a legal document. No fire risk assessment done, and many other things that were completely made up and false. So these sort of things happen. Not only that, this is from the fire brigades, but also have the council making stuff up. And also got me with the license, they got a court order to get for a warrant of entry. And then I got an interview under caution, which I went to, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I got really upset at that interview because basically I looked at everything that they'd done. Apparently they had a body cam, but the officers made things up, and also we're talking to the tenants in terms of trying to find guilt on me. Say, for example, there was a bathroom. This house has got 3 bathrooms for a 7-bed HMO, so 2 bathrooms are enough for that particular council. One was out of order, and the officer, so basically it was compliant because we had 2 bathrooms, which is more than enough for 7 people in an HMO. But even then, the council officer was desperate to try and get something, because who knows, sometimes people go mad, but thank goodness there's the law allows you to do certain things that are quite risky for the councils to do. What happened is, say for example, they asked one question to a tenant, say about the bathroom that was not working, and the council officer said, how many months was this bathroom out of order? Because there was a bathroom out of order because it had some maintenance being done. There was a leak and it was being repaired. The truth of the matter, which the tenant knew, is that it was out of order for 3 days. Basically, the fault happened 3 days prior to the visit under warrant. The visit under warrant 3 days prior, so it was put out of order because of a leak and some maintenance that bathroom needed. So basically the question was, from the council officer, how many months was this bathroom out of order? It's not only that, but basically there's many other questions along those lines. So basically, maliciously implying guilt. We got, in this particular case, a sworn statement from this tenant and other tenants as well about other things. I'm not going to go into detail about the whole thing. And then at the interview under caution, I confronted the particular officer, said, look, you asked that question, we've got the tenant witnessing with that, and we've got also a sworn statement about that. So you said that, and also you've done other things which we've got sworn statements trying to imply guilt. And then to that, and then many other things, the council officer said, no, it's not true, but we've got a body cam, I'll check. She never came back to me with that, because I think it was true, that what she said. And then basically they tried to build a case against me, and with an intended prosecute, they wanted to prosecute me. Now we are, as I film this, we are in the end, almost August. So they've got time until the end of August, September to start prosecution. And I told them, basically, I addressed at the end of the interview under caution, I did not have any lawyer there, but I studied everything well in advance. They tried to catch me off guard on things they could not ask me. So they tried many tricks on me. And this is not the first time it happens. But at the interview under caution, basically, I demonstrated that they can try whatever they want. They're going to fail at each point, and I told them why they would actually fail. Asked them for the transcript. It hasn't arrived yet. We haven't seen it yet. But we're talking about something that happened in May. We're at the end of July. It hasn't happened. So basically, my experience, and it's not the only one, is that you always have to be prepared, because you never know. As a business owner, you can be a landlord, as I am, a developer. I design products. We manufacture products, so I have to have compliance, double check compliance and risk assess each and every from a compliance point of view, each and every product. And as long as you're quite well prepared in advance, you shall not fear anything. Because even in the very worst case scenario, again, as long as you are prepared in advance, you have a strong defense. I've got another a story about why I've learned that. I've learned that because many years ago, we're talking about 2014, prior to that, I designed another product, and I got the HMRA is called, yes, to investigate me. I made a very, very silly legal mistake. I'm not going to go into the details, but it was very easily rectified, and it was so easy to rectify it. I actually rectified it. So basically, because I was not prepared, the MHRA ordered a total recall of my products in 2014. I tried to comply as much as possible. One of my companies was decimated. I had to shut it down. It was not devastating, but I've learned a very, very important lesson. What I've learned then is that the law, number one, not to trust lawyers, because I spent at the time £2,500 on lawyers, waste of time. Now with ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, you've got a lawyer in your pocket, which is much better than most lawyers that you can actually hire. And I realised that if I actually did not comply fully what the MHRA would have actually wanted me to do, they would have needed to prosecute me. They would have actually failed anyway, for a number of reasons. But at that time, I was not prepared, and I collapsed the companies. In retrospect, given how it happened, it was the best decision. But that actually taught me a very important lesson. Always be prepared, have things ready in advance, and then when I started again with the same product, the same device, I've done the compliance checking all in advance, had all the paper trail. They came back again to try and prosecute me again, because the competitor was using some very good tactics in order to shut me down, and they couldn't actually succeed the second time. It was in 2016, they couldn't succeed, so we carried on. So that taught me a very important lesson. Always triple check, study in advance. Also, it taught me that, thank goodness in the UK still, as long as you try to comply, you study in advance, then the law is enforced and structured in a way that even if they go berserk, and they can go berserk, some council's officers completely berserk at times, not all the time, but they can be, it's not worthwhile for them. Say for example, in one of the councils which we've got an HMO in, as long as you've got a license, the penalty notice that they give is £800 for breaches in certain things about the house, which is not a lot, and they're very, very sporadic. So pretty much they issue penalty notices only for houses that don't have the license. 90% of the cases, 10% of the cases, the odd HMO, licensed HMO. So the fact that you've got a license or you applied for a license, a very, very strong legal protection. So this is what I would say is, get ready. If you want to become an HMO investor, if you are an HMO investor, getting all these things in place. Once you've done it once, twice, it's very easy. Now, with my team of people, it's getting easier and easier. Everything is almost an automation. And I only intervene when it comes to certain audits and things that go wrong and do require my attention. But less and less as the portfolio becomes larger. My experience gets better, but the cash flow is larger, so I've got more people that help in-house. So I hope that this video has been useful to you. So comply with the legislation as much as possible. You'll see that in the UK at this point, we're quite fortunate. Things have been legislated so that as an HMO investor, you are quite protected. But do not at any point, if you are the owner, the landowner of the HMO, think that if you're a manager, even with the right contracts in place, you're off the hook, because it can even be worse. Look it up, it can be worse. So that's it for this video. My name is Andreas Russo. I hope that actually this video was of use to you. And if you'd like to know more about HMOs, get in touch.